The Megillath Ahazureus. The letter of Ahasuerus, or the letter of Xerxes, which the wicked Haman sent into all the provinces of India and Ethiopia, in the name of the king. This Hebrew manuscript, from an ancient roll bearing the same title, the roll, as it is said in the Hebrew preface, translated from the Biblia, written in the Greek tongue by the 70 elders in the days of King Ptolemy, originally copied from the brazen tablets preserved at Goa, in one of the synagogues of the black Jews that settled in Kochi, India, or Kerala, South India, known as God's country. Translated to English by Thomas Yates. Chapter 1. These are the words of the letter. The great king, Artaxerxes, the same as Ahasuerus, that reigned from India even unto Ethiopia, hath commanded, and doth command, the princes of 127 provinces of his kingdom with words of truth and peace. Although I am an august and mighty king, and greatest of all earthly kings of every place, yet I have not been willing to exalt my power and dominion by usurpation, but have always been inclined to reign over you with a pure and mild government, and peaceable, such as desired by all mankind, and have always sought to promote their happiness, so that every man should dwell under my government in peace and tranquility, and minding his own business. Wherefore I took up the counsel with my nobles and counselors concerning the subject of peace and the summit of prosperity, and how it might be continued and made lasting and permanent. Then Haman, who in wisdom greatly excelled in all my princes and counselors, and whom I loved above all of them, for he was chief in my counsel and confidence, and was next in my kingdom, he represented unto me how that there were found a certain people scattered and dispersed among the people of my kingdom, having statutes and judgments and laws contrary to all nations, and to their customs, and in whose sight the royal decrees were not accounted for anything. For this cause they strove to disturb the peace and unity throughout all my kingdom. So it came to pass, as soon as I had heard concerning the said people, that they were a people differing from all the laws of other people, and continually opposing my will, and doing perversely against all the faith and customs of nations, and that they obeyed not my commands, and moreover, because they excite continual wars, and do great damage to my kingdom, breaking the peace, and destroying the union of my people. I have commanded that this people, which Haman the great prince hath represented to you, be destroyed and slain, and made to perish without mercy, together with children and women, and that their spoil be made a prey, and their slaughter shall be on the 14th day of the month in the same year, to the end of all them should be slain on the said day, without leaving them any to remain or escape, so that there may be peace continually in my kingdom. Chapter 2. Then prayed Mordecai to his Alahayim, declaring his wonders, saying, O Adonai Alahayim, thou art Melech King Al-Shaddai, and Melech King of all kings. Everything is in thy power, and thy good pleasure shall be done, and who may resist thy will, when thou art pleased to help Israel? Thou hast made heaven and earth, and all that is therein. Thou art Adonai of them all, and who shall resist thee to hinder thy will? Thou knowest all that is done, and seest that I have not acted in pride of heart or in haughtiness, and that I did not bow down to Haman the adversary and enemy, when I could have helped Israel by kissing Haman's feet. I myself was ready and prepared to do this for the good of thy people, but for this cause did not I bow down myself to him, lest I should turn away in giving the glory of Alahayim to one born of a woman and to a mortal man. Neither will I bow down to any other but before my Alahayim. And now, O Adonai, the King, and Alahayim of Puryim, have mercy upon thy people. For they that hate us would destroy us, and root us out of thine inheritance, which hath been thine from the beginning. Despise not this little heap of thine, which thou hast redeemed with thine own arm out of Egypt. Please hear my prayer, and show mercy unto thy people, and turn our sorrow into joy, that we may live and declare thy praise, and celebrate thy name, and destroy not the lips that continually show forth thy praises. And all of Israel called upon Adonai with all their might, because they were devoted even Hadassah the queen resorted unto Adonijah to pray also in the time of Israel's trouble. And she laid aside her royal apparel, and put on herself mourning garments, and in the place of sweet ointments, and perfume, and rose waters to anoint her hair, she covered her head with dust and ashes, and umbered her soul with fastings. And in all places where before Hadassah had joy and gladness, she went now with her torn hair, by reason of her abasement. So she prayed to the Alahayim of Israel, saying,
O Lord, Thou only art our King. Save now the afflicted and mournful, for I have no deliverer but Thee only, and reproach and distress have come before mine eyes. I have heard from my father that Thou art the Lord that didst separate Israel from all people, and didst take our fathers of old from Thine inheritance, and hast fulfilled continually that which Thou saidst and did promise unto them. As for us, we have sinned before Thee. Therefore Thou hast delivered us into the hands of our enemies. But Thou art righteous, O Lord, and we have rebelled because we have given our glory to the idols of our enemies. And now, O Lord, our God, is it not enough that our enemies oppress us in bitter captivity because of our iniquities, thinking and devising how to swallow us up? But also ascribe their victory to their idols and to their own power. And they consider how to cause Thy covenant to cease with us, and pluck up Thine inheritance by the roots, and to stop every mouth that singeth to the glory of Thy name, and that they may destroy the glory of the place of Thy sanctuary. And how to open every mouth of the heathen to laud and praise the power and might of their idol, and to extol continually a king that is encompassed with death like the rest of the mortals? O Lord, give not Thy staff, nor Thy rightful scepter into the hands of the one that is nothing, that they reproach us not, but return upon their own heads the evil which they have devised upon us, and set a mark upon the adversary that presumptuously assaileth us with lying words at the king's hands. Remember us, O Lord, and show us wonderful things in our oppressions, and grant me the power and strength, O Lord, who art King above all gods and over all princes. Learn me how to speak in the presence of the lion, and turn his heart to hate them that hate us, that so he may die, he and all that are joined with him by a strange death. Bring us forth and redeem us from our miseries by Thy mighty hand. Help me, for that I am Thy handmaid, who has no redeemer nor deliverer but Thee only, and Thou knowest everything. And Thou knowest that I have no delight nor joy nor gladness in the glory which I have had or can have with the ungodly, nor also have I any desire in the marriages of heathens and strangers. Thou knowest that I was compelled to do thus, though I had no pleasure in the royal ointment upon my head in the day which He showed me the riches of the glory of His kingdom. But all was accounted by me as an unclean garment, neither tired I myself with His pomp out of His sight. Also Thou knowest that I neither did eat nor drank of my dainties and delicacies to rejoice with Haman, nor also rejoice at the dainties of the king's table, nor drink of the wine offered to his idols. Neither has joy come into the heart of Thy handmaiden since the day when I came hither until now. But I will rejoice continually with the princes of the people, when they shall be gathered together with the people of the God of Abraham. Hear the voice of the afflicted, for Thou art God, mighty above all that are mighty, and deliver us from the hand of the wicked, and redeem me from all of my troubles.
Chapter 4. And upon the third day, Hadassah put off her mourning garments, and clothed herself with royal apparel. And she found favor in the eyes of all that beheld her. And having called upon Alahayim, the Savior, to help her, she took with her 2 maidens. And upon the hand of one she leaned with dignity, and the other followed her, bearing up the train of her garments. And her countenance was exceeding fair, and she was held in admiration in the eyes of all that saw her, for her appearance was cheerful. but her heart was full of anguish and sorrow. And when she had passed through all the doors of the palace, then stood up the queen before the king. And the king was seated on his royal throne, and his robe of state was gold and precious stones, so that the sight of him cast a dread in the eyes of them that saw him. And the king, lifting up his eyes, saw Hadassah, being moved with indignation and fierce anger. And Hadassah was troubled at his presence, and her countenance was changed like the face of death, and she fell through faintness with her head upon her maid. Then Adonijah Alahayim changed the heart of the king for good, and the king was troubled for her sake, and arose from his throne and ran to meet Hadassah, and embraced her and kissed her, and said to her in friendly words, "What is the matter, O Hadassah? Am I not thy brother? Fear thou not, for the decree that none should come unto the king without being called for is commanded for others, but not come for thee." Then the king held up the golden scepter and laid it upon her neck, and he embraced her, and said, "Speak, O Hadassah, what thou hast to say." Then answered Hadassah and said,
As soon as I saw thee, I thought that I saw an angel of God. Therefore I was troubled at the great glory of thy majesty. For thou art very terrible, casting a dread upon all that behold thee, and thy countenance is wonderful.
And at the time that Hadassah was speaking to him, she fell down again through faintness upon the ground. And the king was troubled with his ministers because of her, and they comfort her. Chapter 5. In the 4th year the king Ptolemy and Cleopatra, Dositheus and his son Ptolemy, there are those who say that there were these, the sons of Levi, brought these letters to Puryim, and said that Lysimachus, the son of Ptolemy, translated the same in Jerusalem from the Arabic into the Hebrew tongue. Artaxerxes, he is Ahazureus, the king that reigneth from India unto Ethiopia, commanded his peace unto the princes of 127 provinces of the kingdom, and unto the subjects with his decree of peace and truth. Whereas I have found many ministers to become vain through the lenity of their kings, and that the honor that is given to them of the king only prompts them to excess of pride and haughtiness, and to practice all manner of evil. And not only that they do wrong in the common people, which are the king's subjects, but are ever devising how they may trample under their feet the prince that had exalted them. Nor do they only do wrong against the well-affected and well-disposed princes of the country, that they should not be subject to their own king, but also this they do, that they think that Alahayim, who continually seeth the ways of just men, observeth not their evil works. Wherever they practice falsehood, and deceive righteous princes, stirring them up to shed innocent blood, and those who have acted faithfully in their duties to their king, them they bring reproach and great distress. The like work and example is not only found in the histories of ancients, but also in our times, and are found wicked counselors that excite the king to use his subjects ill. As for much as I am bound to take cognizance of the said evil proceedings, and as it is laid upon me to give an account of their actions, and to remove such impediments, and to preserve the peace of my country, it becomes necessary and expedient for sometimes to change decrees, which I have before commanded, when I have found affairs to go contrary to what the reporter had declared unto me, using all precaution, for this is the glory of government. For now, whereas Haman, the son of Hammedatha, begotten of the Macedonian blood, and not of Persian blood, nor having any native stock like the Persian, but who was only with me as a traveler, him I promoted and dignified and exalted above all the princes. For this is my disposition, to make much of the traveler, of whatsoever sort of nation, so that I called him father, and gave him favor and honor to be called the next unto the king. But this honor and bounty only moved him to show his pride and haughtiness and determination in his mind against myself and my kingdom. For he watched how to destroy Mordecai, who had by his faithfulness and goodness saved my life, and also my righteous consort, Queen Hadassah, and all her people. For he cursed them to me with false and vain words, that he might destroy them from my hand. And when they had destroyed those who guarded me and my kingdom, Haman designed also to have me destroyed, to bring over the kingdom of Persia into the power of the Macedonians. But we have found out that they whom wicked Haman would have to be destroyed are just men, and pious, having good ordinances and laws, and are the children of the great and eternal Alahayim. He is the Alahayim. ancestors, and also to me by his abundant goodness, and he yet doth well guide my kingdom. Wherefore do not ye put in execution the letter which had been brought to you by means of Haman. For because of the work which he had done, and because of the letter which he had written to destroy the people of Mordecai and Hadassah, I have commanded him to be hanged, and all of his family upon a tree before the gate of the city of Shushan. For Elohim hath returned his reward upon his own head for the punishment of his wickedness. Now this command which I have given you by this letter, ye are ordered to declare and publish in all the provinces of my kingdom, that I have granted free liberty to the Jews to do and perform all the commandments and laws of the living Elohim, who is called Elohim of Israel, and not one shall perish by their hand. There shall come vain and lewd men to do them violence, and to slay them by the decree of the wicked Haman upon the 13th day of the 12th month. Then are ye bound to guard and rescue them from their enemies, and they give them laws of avengement of their enemies. For that the same hath mighty Elohim made a day of joy and of gladness. For upon the said day Haman's purpose was to have plucked up the roots, the chosen people, but it was turned upon himself. Wherefore ye are bound to keep the 14th day of the 12th month, a festival that is called Puryim. And this feast day shall be among all the festivals with joy and gladness, that Elohim may do good unto us and to all the princes, by inclining the Persians to confidence in them, and that this day may be an example to show unto all posterity how the Adonai Elohim giveth punishment to the rebellious. And every province or city which shall transgress my command, and that will not obey the decree of this letter, shall be destroyed by sword and by fire, and be made desolate, so that neither man, nor beast, nor fowl may dwell there forever. Chapter 6. In the second year, the great king Artaxerxes, in the first day of the month, one dreamed a dream, who was a Jew, the son of Yair, the son of Shimi, the son of Kish, of the tribe of Benjamin. He was a stranger in the city of Shushan, an honorable man, a renowned in the court of the palace, and he was of the captivity which Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, carried away from Jerusalem with the king of Jeconiah, king of Judah. This was his dream. Then he heard a noise and crying coming up, and a rumor of thunderings and earthquakes. And behold, two great dragons went one against the other to fight. And the noise increased more and more, insomuch that all the heathen came from all countries to make war against the set-apart people. And it was day, and behold, there came a great darkness and gloominess, tribulation and terror, and dismay and dread mingled with darkness. And there was a voice of mourning and woe and fearfulness upon the earth. And the set-apart people were distressed and perplexed and vexed, and were in great fear, by reason of the evil of their destinies, and despaired of their lives. Then they cried unto Elohim, and upon their cry there flowed from a little fountain a great flood of water. And the sun arose upon the earth to give light, and behold, there was a great light. Humble got the victory over the proud, and slew them. And Mordecai awakened after the dream, and considered his thoughts, what is this dream which I have dreamed? And what hath Elohim shown me hereby? So he kept his dream in his heart, and his thoughts dwelt continually on the dream, until he might know what its design and interpretation. Chapter 7. Then answered Mordecai and said, Elohim has sent us all these things. This day do I remember my dream, for behold, this has come to pass even as I have dreamed. The little fountain from which flowed a great flood of water, when the sun arose upon the earth, was the trial of Hadassah, the queen, who was taken to the king to be his wife, and was made queen. And the two dragons were I and Haman. The first showed me concerning the nations which assembled together to destroy all the Jews. And the second showed me concerning the people of Israel, that called upon Adonai, our Elohim, that Adonai saved his people, and redeemed us from this evil fate. For he doeth wonders and signs among the heathen. For he hath ever made a difference between the people and the heathen. And when the hour came that the heathen had filled up their measure of pride, and were full of contempt and reproach, then Adonai our Elohim came to execute judgment. Then remembered he his people, and gave victory to his inheritance. Now these days that are called Puryim, all of Israel are bound to keep and perform every year in the month on the 14th and 15th day thereof. The same are the days of feasting and rejoicing, and a festival in the synagogues of the people, and it shall not cease forever from the people of the house of Israel.